Bicycle racks on an Airstream travel trailer are always an interesting proposition, and I believe what we've come up with is a fairly unique solution. I'm Jim Fisher, and this is Airstreamer, and we've modified this jacket bicycle rack by Lippert to fit our Airstream travel trailer. And let's look at how we did it and the installation process. There's only one bicycle rack that Airstream recommends, and that's the one by Fiamma. And Fiamma worked together with Airstream to develop a bike rack that would mount on the back of an Airstream and securely support the bicycles. But the issue that we have with our International Serenity 28 is that this is our only outside storage. This compartment right here, and we have the bumper storage right here where I store all of our wheel chocks and sewer related things. And in this compartment, I'm storing all of the exterior lights, our power cables, our potable water hoses, anything to do with the outside of the Airstream is stored right here. I can't afford to lose this storage. Others have made modifications to the undercarriage and welded a support up into the frame and out through the bumper for a 2-inch receiver so a bicycle rack could be mounted there. That would have been an option for us, but I've got 2 issues with that. One is the structural modification, and we're going to lose a little bit of the storage in this rear bumper compartment, which is pretty critical to me, and it would actually cut it in half, so I had 2 separate halves, and that may create some issues with how the stuff is stored in there. And the other thing is, you really can never see what's going on back here. Going down the highway, I've often seen RVs with bicycles on the back, and they're just bouncing away, and there's times where the bicycles come loose, fall off, and be dragging on the pavement, and you'd never even know that's happening unless another driver alerts you to the situation as you're driving down the expressway. Another option, instead of mounting the bicycles on the back of the Airstream, would be to mount them over the tonneau cover on the truck. Unfortunately, the tonneau cover I have, the Gator truck bed protector, is not compatible with any bike rack system I could find. The closest would require some modification, and it was extremely expensive. The next best option would be something mounted on the front frame of the trailer, so the bicycles would be riding between the bed of the truck and the front of the Airstream. There's 2 different racks that are made that can do this. One is a bolt-on one, but with a ProPride hitch system that we have, I think that's going to be pretty problematic in getting all that stuff to fit on there. And I'm a little concerned with just a whole bunch of U-bolts and nuts holding everything together. The next alternative was the jacket by Lippert, which is a very unique system. The trailer jack actually mounts through this. You remove the trailer jack, you set this on, and then the whole assembly bolts together, and then the bicycles mount from above on a rack system that kind of looks like old rabbit ear TV antennas. But the problem with that system is that there's only 22.5 inches of clearance between the plate and where the top of the electric jack is, and the Airstream needs about 26 clearance from the deck to the top of the jack. Scouring the internet, I saw someone who had modified the jacket to fit the Airstream by welding in 4-inch extensions to extend the height of the jacket. There's a steel sleeve, there's a steel bar inside, and then these extensions are welded on. Luckily, our nephew is an expert welder and was able to make these modifications for us. So what we're about to do is install this jacket onto our Airstream travel trailer, onto Gemini, so that we can take our bicycles to our next destination. I've hooked the truck up to the Airstream, to the ProPride hitch, to provide support so that I can safely remove the jack. So let's get working on taking the electric jack off the truck. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to raise this up a bit, and we're going to remove the foot off the jack. We'll just set the foot aside for now. Now we're going to loosen these 3 bolts. They are 9/16. Set our socket set to loosen. the 3 bolts off, this jack will simply slide up and out of there. I may have to take some wires out or do something to make it work a little better, but I guess not. We look like we're going to be just perfect in getting this thing all back together. We'll grab the jacket and set it in place. So let's go ahead and get these bolts put in. All right, so we got the emergency brake lined up. We're gonna get this in there a little close. All right, let's get the other 2 bolts started again. All lined up. Now let's get this mounted back in where it goes. I've switched the camera angle. It's might be a little easier for you to see. Plus it puts the camera in the shade, so I'll have a little less overheating problems. But as you can see, we actually now do have clearance over the jack, and we'll be able to mount the bike rack up from there. One of the nice things about the ProPride hitch is that when you drop the tailgate, it now misses the trailer jack because it gives just that little bit more extension. And a plus benefit, that will allow me to stand on the tailgate to mount the bikes right up here. But now we need to put the shroud back on these tanks. I took it off for ease of installation, but now it's time to get that part put back on. One of the reasons I got those Mopica sensors is I knew with this bike rack it was going to be a little more difficult to access the propane tanks, so that lets me check the levels much easier than peeking inside and checking that regulator. The next part of the jacket system to go on is this that's going to hold the arms that are going to support the bicycles. I've already mounted this part on, but we're going to do this part right now. Take the bolt, lock washer is going to go on first, then the washer. Line this back up, and we put this bolt through, and now we're going to ratchet these together. New fly in the ointment. Because of how this thing mounts on there, this long piece and the shroud, this sticks out about this far and hits the shroud. I think it's going to be time for a trip to the hardware store. Good thing the hardware store is close to the campground. We made it to the hardware store. We're going to see if we can find the bolts and nuts to replace this right down this aisle here. Same thread. Grab 2 bolts, 2 different lengths, a 3-inch and a 2.5-inch. One of those should fit. 1 nylon lock washer to hold it all together. Let's go give them some money. Look at that, circus peanuts. Does anybody really eat those things? They're disgusting. We're back from the hardware store. I've got 2 different lengths of bolts and the nylon lock nut that's going to take the place of all this mechanism. So let's look at what we've got. I've got a 3-inch one and how long it sticks past there by the time we get the bolts on and everything. And if that nylon lock nut will have enough to grip and lock. And I also got a 2.5-inch one. And then by the time we get all the lock nut and the washer on the other side, will that have enough room to lock on there? And it looks like that just barely will work, which is kind of what we're after, was just enough where it'll take hold. So let's try that 2.5-inch bolt, make sure that all works. But first, we got to put the shroud back over these tanks. Ready to mount the bike wings onto our jacket. Lippert provides 4 of these clamps that mount on. They give you something that it looks like the bicycle wheels might rest on, how they lock together. Then they also give you 4 of these that the bicycles hang from at near the top of the wing. One of the bicycles is going to hang on this side and the other is going to hang on this side. So one is a little higher, one is a little lower, but they're going to mount, and then there's rubber straps that hold this whole thing together. So we have our modified jacket installed, our bike wings on, all of the various things that hold the bicycles in place are there. It's going to have to be custom fit to our bicycles. And then there's these straps that go on, these rubber straps. They hook on and they wrap around, and that's what holds the bike all together and in there. I've seen these in operation on a couple of different campers, and they are amazingly sturdy. We're going to find out how well this works and how we have to mount the bicycles on here, all the adjustments we have to do. But through the magic of YouTube, we're going to show you that right now. So far so good with the jacket bike rack by Lippert that our nephew modified so it fit our Airstream, and we've used it. We've taken it across a couple states now, found a couple better ways to mount that back bike off and on, and so far so good with this modified rack.